Over the doors of our church is our stewardship motto for this year, which is everyone add one. And we can certainly hear that being said by our Holy Father as he has made his pilgrimage through the United States, at least the East Coast, in some of our largest cities in our country, that each and every one of us is responsible. Each of every one of us is responsible for the gospel of Jesus and what Jesus invites us to do. We hear in the book of Numbers, one of the first 5 books of the Old Testament, very important to our Jewish brothers and sisters, this beautiful story and these unusual names that are so fun to say, Eldad and Medad. And we know that the Spirit of the Lord came upon a gathering of people who were with Moses. And we hear that Eldad and Medad were outside of that gathering tent. And when the Spirit came upon the gathering, they too also received that same Spirit. And people were questioning, well, they weren't there for the event, but they received that same Spirit. And Moses said to them, after Joshua complained to him, Moses, my Lord, stop them. But Moses answered, are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the people of the Lord were prophets. Would that the Lord might bestow the Spirit on all of them. So imagine if the whole world was like a messenger, like our Holy Father, bringing God's love and care to the world. Would that all the people of the Lord were prophets. Now, this Old Testament reading from the book of Numbers is paired today with Mark's gospel, where there's a very similar situation. The disciples wanting, I guess, some quality control over the message. Teacher, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to prevent him because he does not follow us. Now, what do you think Jesus would say? He knows this story that happened to Moses. He was a very good Jewish man, understanding the law and the prophets. And Jesus says to them a very simple declarative sentence. Jesus replied, do not prevent him. And we know that we should not be prevented from proclaiming the gospel, that each and every one of us, it says on our sign, everyone add one, and you are everyone. It doesn't say that you have to have a degree in theology. It doesn't say that you have to be a certain age, but everyone add one to our number through your invitation, but also through the example that you bring. One of the first documents that the Holy Father wrote was the joy of the gospel. And I would say that, for those of us that are, coming from European descent, it's more difficult for us to be excited about the gospel. When something good happens to me, I have some friends that, at my old church that would say, well, you never seem to get that excited. And I says, I am excited. I don't jump up and down that much. But it's true that if we were excited, imagine the excitement of all those people that got to see the Holy Father, that kind of enthusiasm. Do we have that about our faith? Are we willing to speak out? Or are we afraid? Teacher, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to prevent him because he does not follow us. And then Jesus says, do not prevent him. There is no one who performs a mighty deed in my name who can at the same time speak ill of me. For whoever is not against us is for us. For whoever is not against us is for us. It's an interesting way of Jesus expressing the same sentiment that Moses did. When Moses said, "Are you jealous? Would that all the people of the Lord were prophets. Would that the Lord might bestow his Spirit on all of them." Now, certainly we would rather have people to be for Jesus, but if they're not against us, Jesus is saying, that's okay. It's better than nothing at all. And how do we continue to move out of ourselves to be people of faith, hope, and love, delivering the message of the joy of the gospel to others with not only our words, but the example of our lives? Do not prevent them. So, for whoever is not against us is for us. Jesus, in this part of Mark's gospel, used children as an example, their innocence, their enthusiasm, their excitement. And he encourages us to rid ourselves of anything that is sinful in our lives, so that we might know the joys of the gospel and the joys of heaven. For whoever is not against us is for us. So may we continue to have the enthusiasm of the gospel that Pope Francis has brought to our country this week. May we continue, as our sign above our door so succinctly and beautiful state, that we need to add one. Everyone, add one. And may Moses' request of Joshua be also ours. Would it not be a blessing if all of us had that same Spirit, the Spirit of God, who enlivens us, who allows us to preach the gospel of goodness to the world, the gospel of faith, hope, and love.